So welcome back to Wedding Capture Co. We are here now with episode 12.
Episode 12, yeah.
Episode 12. That sounds mad, doesn't it?
Yeah, we're doing well with it.
I was not actually quite believe it myself that we're at 12 episodes.
We're in July and we're still actually, no, we missed one. We missed a week, didn't we? So
we did.
We
were hoping nobody noticed that.
Someone did notice. Harry actually came up to me and was like, "Oh yeah, I woke up on Thursday, went to put my favourite podcast on and it wasn't there." And I was like, "Oh no, someone noticed."
Oh, we're someone's favourite podcast. Oh, that's really sweet. I'm not sure I should be worried or alarmed that we're the first things that Harry thinks about when he wakes up though.
But yeah, he was very disappointed. So.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that was an episode that a lot of things went wrong around that, and obviously with the editing schedule at the moment, we tried to release it, and then we weren't sure whether to release it because of the quality of it, but we mentioned in the last episode that we decided to go ahead anyway and do that. So
I think like we said in the last episode, though, it's all about the journey and kind of we're past that now. We're 2 episodes past it, and we're doing okay. I don't want to jinx things too much, but I think we'll be okay. And I think, like you said as well, with that one going out a week later than planned, pretty much summarises the reason that we're doing the episode that we're doing today.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason we do every other week as well is because like we knew it was probably going to get to this point in the summer where it's sketchy. Like I'm editing now the podcasts, the night before or the day before because that's the last thing in my priority. That only becomes priority when it's due. Basically, everything else is due before.
Are we on the tracker? Like if I log into the tracker, will I be on there?
That's a good idea.
Will I be on there? Where's the Capture Co episode 11?
No, because the Capture Co has specific deadlines, which again, this is probably something we'll get into in the main bulk of the episode, like deadlines. But it's just July has been absolutely mad for me. I mentioned it maybe in episode 10. I think a third of our weddings for the year were all crammed into July. So it was a double, a triple, and a double. And it's like I don't know how that ended up happening, but it ended up being absolute chaos. And obviously going into it, I was like, right, here we go. And then coming out of it, like I just don't. Like the amount, I feel like I've just gone from being on top of things to just being behind on everything. And then suddenly we were talking about it before we started recording. Suddenly it's August and everyone wants you to do everything here, there and everywhere. I had a YouTube video to make for a camera company. I've got corporate work coming in. I don't really do corporate work, to be quite honest, but the clients I do have left from when I did do corporate work suddenly want it all in August. And it's like, it's all kicking off now. So yeah, it's getting absolutely crazy. And obviously this does happen in wedding season, and this is what this episode is going to be all about. But yeah, that's just an insight into my life at the moment.
I think we're at that point because I feel the other way. I've kind of, my weddings, I've had a busy month. I think I've shot like 4 or 5 weddings this month, which is not loads. Like I've had the last 2 weekends free. I'm shooting a wedding tomorrow. And so that's my first one for like, say, a couple of weeks. But my commercials really kicked off. I've had a lot of that fitted in. Obviously, like I said, the editing deadlines on that are a lot shorter. Yeah. So kind of I'm trying to squeeze that in whilst I feel like everything's caught up with me this month. Like I had a busier June. So the 6-week deadlines on those are starting to arrive, as well as maybe I took my foot off the gas a little bit because I've got less weddings or I can fit the commercial in because I haven't got the weddings. And although like shooting time and editing time are disparatively different. So it's making sure that maybe I need to kind of tighten my schedule and allow not just I'll fit it in somewhere, is I almost block the editing time. I want to block the shoot out and stuff to manage it, and definitely feel like, I think when you walked through the door this morning, I said to you, like, I feel like the last 2 weeks I've been fighting a house fire with an egg cup. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've been running and getting the smallest amount of water, which keeps it at bay for like 10 seconds.
It's the dog meme of sat in a fire, like everything is okay.
Literally, I feel like it's like that. And also, I think some of it is kind of karma coming around, that for all the things we spoke about over the past few episodes of, I'm conscious that I'm shooting less weddings this year than I have the last 2. I've always gone into this year of kind of, it'll be fine. I'm down, like, I've got like 10 less weddings than last year and 15 less than the year before. So how can it go wrong? I survived those years. And now I'm like, oh man, it's happening.
It's so weird how that happens, isn't it? How sort of relative it is. I'm just going to turn my mic up. It's so weird how sort of relative it is. If you can do 5 less weddings the next year and still feel just as busy, but it's probably because you're focusing on other things. You're spending more time on a specific edit because you know that you've got more time to do that, and then before you know it, all the weddings are crammed into like summer, or like a lot is crammed into summer, and then you realize you still don't have that much time. You just might be finished a bit earlier in winter or something.
I think that as well, and also something else we've talked at length about, so I won't worry too much about it. Is obviously I did what I would call a significant price increase last year. So a lot of those weddings that I booked on that price increase are starting to come through now.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I deliver or work in the same quality, and regardless of anybody that booked me, I turn up and do a day and don't really look too much. I go, oh, yeah, they've only paid me this much, they're going to get this out of me.
Yeah.
But I think I've gone into kind of all of my weddings this year going, no, I'm at a higher level now. Holding myself to a higher standard. And because of that, I've really kind of pushed harder, maybe looked more, really tries to squeeze that lemon out of every job, knowing that I'm going to less weddings.
Yeah.
To make sure that I get the most for the couple and for myself in terms of content out of every wedding. So that I found that because of that, my galleries have been bigger. In a full day, I only normally guarantee 500 plus. So most of my galleries last year were averaging around the 700 mark, where I've had a couple this year that have been nearly at the 1,000 mark. And so that extra 200 to 300 photos to edit somewhere, that still takes longer time in the edit. Or staying longer because the sunsets have been better. I've not been, there's no sunset, I'll do my hour after first dance and be down the road.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of weddings where I've been like, do you know what? I could easily stay to the end of this because it's going off. So maybe I'm just at better weddings. So the pull to capture more because there's more content in front of me is there.
You definitely get more motivated to capture good stuff or stay for longer if it's a good one, don't you? That's the thing.
For sure, yeah.
You can't really prevent that, and you might stay longer at one wedding. It might be unfair on the next person, but this wedding had loads of stuff going on, and you
can't walk away.
Yeah.
That's what you say. Like if you are in a dance floor and it is going off, like you would have to be an absolute fool to just go, nope, it's 8:59. I'm going to pack my bag now and go home.
Yeah.
Where there's people being lobbed around the dance floor with ties on their heads, or like the bride trying to do a cartwheel, or like the mum's breakdancing or something. You can't go home when that's happening.
I find it really difficult to leave in that situation because we were talking in the last episode about how, for me, I know when I've got enough and when I'm just staying for the sake of it and I'm not going to capture anything more. If that dance floor's been buzzing for half an hour, I know that I've got the 2 minutes of footage I need. I could stay another half an hour because it's so good, but it's not going to make the film any better. It's really hard
for me, I know that, and I had this a couple of times last year. I had the fear where I'd wake up the next morning and I'd maybe see the couple on Instagram and they're sharing all the story, they're resharing all the stories from their day, and I see the photo or the video, which is obviously later in the evening after I've left, and it's like something really cool happening, or
a massive circle.
That's it, or something like that goes off, or there's I think I watched one last year where one of my grooms dived off the bar onto his mates, and it's like, man, if I was there, that would be the most epic photos.
Imagine.
And I'd have been blissfully unaware if I hadn't seen that, but now I've seen it and I'm like, man, I should have stayed for that. And that could have been after the last song of the evening. It could have been midnight for all I know. But I still, part of me then kind of takes myself off of Instagram and gives myself a verbal kick in for you should have been there for that.
No, but I feel like because you're increasing your value, that you feel like even for the people that haven't paid that necessarily, they're now expecting, not necessarily expecting, but you hold yourself to this value.
I've given myself a higher perceived value. Yeah. So I want to make sure that not only for the couples that, again, regardless of when they've booked me in at what price, that the couple that I'm photographing for, the guests that are watching me and the stuff that I put out afterwards needs to be worth that value that I'm putting on myself.
It's hard not to go into a wedding and be like, oh, they booked 2 years ago, the price was so much cheaper. It's going to be tough to get the motivation to do it.
Yeah.
But this year I found my mindset's completely changed. It's not really consciously, but I've turned up thinking, oh, this couple probably paid a vast amount less than what I'm charging now. If I make a video that I'm charging now for them, they're going to be dead happy because they booked 2 years ago when I was charging less and doing less. And now it's 2 years later, I've upgraded everything, the videos that they looked at and now but I think that's replaced with new ones.
That's a lesson for future you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or being mindful that when that booking comes in for 2025 and they're still looking at your lowest package, you're going, is there anything you can do? You're going, well, you're only seeing what I'm making now.
Yeah.
Really, you want to look at the work that I was making 2 years ago and see that growth. It's like, if you're loving this now, think where I'll be in 2 years' time when I actually shoot your wedding day.
That's the thing. And if I booked a wedding for next month, I'd be meeting their expectations. But because they booked 2 years ago and I'm filming it this month, I've doubled their expectations because the price is now like,
and the anticipation though's gone because they've seen everybody else's film that year.
Yeah.
Don't you find that as well with the weddings later in the year? And I've had it a couple of times in emails that I've had kind of in final conversations over the last couple of weeks where I've had like, oh, I've been following you on Insta all year and seeing your stories. You've been to some amazing weddings, and they're already getting excited for what you can make for them because they'll be that person that other people watch on the stories.
True. Yeah.
But then you're still thinking, well, I really hope it delivers, like weather-wise or however, because they're really looking at all this like amazing sunsets I've had or really cool moments, and it's like for whatever reason the vibe's not 100% there, or it doesn't just quite feed through on their wedding day.
Yeah,
I'm not disappointed in them because I don't make the vibe, but I still want to
be happy.
Want them to feel that they're part of that, you know.
Yeah, that comes down to the whole like, do you post the weddings you don't want to post because people are expecting them to be posted, and then you end up I've had a couple of weddings before where like the couple just been amazing, like they've like everything I put on Instagram, you can tell they're just waiting for their film, and I'm like, they realise I'm not going to post it. Which is a shame.
Slip it in the story, that's it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll make a short reel out of something normally, but I think I posted most of them from this year anyway, because again, like I'm holding myself to a higher standard similar to you, and if I don't, I'll make a shorter version or something to more accurately reflect what I'm doing now, because again, they booked a while ago when I was doing 3 to 4 minute films, not doing them anymore, so I might make a trailer and try and shorten it down to something that's a bit more like, this is everything I wanted to show, you've got your highlights basically with everything that you paid for, here's what I want to show.
I think that's fair enough. I think some people really think there's a kind of a barrier of, especially I imagine with film, where because you've made an edit a certain way, is that's all that you can show, and there's nothing wrong with, in the same way that as a photographer, I might have a wedding where preps in a really nice hotel, they have a really lovely dress, really expensive details, and then go to a venue that doesn't look so great or something else doesn't tie up. I can only show, or I have the ability to show quite small slithers of people's day. And I could show people very small parts of people's days, or things that are quite venue ambiguous, or do very well at hiding parts of the day that maybe weren't so aesthetically pleasing, or hone in on things that were very much the pinnacle of those days. And it gives you a very different perception of how that day actually was. And the couple will love what you make because their family are in it and it's their day. But when you're trying to market to a very niche section of people, you need to use very niche parts of those days to hone your point in.
Yeah, exactly. I've always wondered whether photography is less reliant on a lot of parts of the venue and things like that. I mean, it's still obviously reliant on that stuff, but I feel like video is reliant on a combination of things going well for that video to be very good, like for Insta-worthy. Okay, I'm going to say Insta-worthy. Whereas like if you get one Insta-worthy moment or shot for photo, you can just post that and it doesn't rely on the rest
and sometimes as well, especially because of what I do, I'll sell myself in that kind of documentary style. It can be a really good moment. Yeah. And the venue that it's at doesn't really matter what it is. No. As long as that moment itself is quite good. Or even say if you're shot on an 85, it's quite a tight moment. Yeah. You could be anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. But with the trailers, I like to, I don't know, with the couples films, I'm always focusing on what the couple wants. And then if I'm like, I need to make an Instagram edit, there's certain things like, maybe if the dad reaction wasn't great, I'll take that out. I'll put it in the highlights because it's for them. But if it's for me, I'm going to take that out because I know that it wasn't the best. And I only put it in for them anyway, and it wasn't the best shot or something. So then I'll only put like the cream of the crop in the shots and take them out and put them in.
And I think that's okay. I think there's probably a lot of people out there thinking, oh no, that's what I delivered. If I kind of make a second edit for me, the couple are going to feel that I'm the bits that if I'm taking dad out, I've got something against dad. And it's like, that's not the case at all. Is that you need to, you're essentially using the pieces of what you've got to build marketing material to appeal to future couples. Yeah. What you have made has satisfied the couple that you've made it for. Yeah. That I think is where that ends.
Now you create your marketing content from it. Yeah.
In the same way that, like you say, you get couples that message you and go, oh, I didn't make it to your Instagram grid. Like, oh, I'm not good enough for you. It's not about that. Like, they've booked you to do a job because they like your style. Yeah. But stroking their ego doesn't book you future couples, or them feeling they've made it because they're on your grid.
This doesn't make sense.
I'd feel sad that they felt that way about their wedding.
Definitely. But it's not your responsibility.
But it's not your responsibility to make them feel better just by posting it. Because I'd feel even worse if I posted it and then 3 months time it doesn't fit and deleted it. Because that looks even worse. Yeah. Like I think if you're shooting enough weddings, you just to go, look, I shoot. You only know about the weddings that I show. Yeah. I shoot far more. I'm not saying you're not, making them make out they're not the only one that doesn't get shared doesn't make it right. But just say, due to the volume that I shoot, I'm unable to share everything. Just because I haven't shared your wedding the second that you got it, doesn't mean that I won't share it later down the line, or you give them that promise that it might come at some point, or something will get used, or you can afford to, like say, to use a detail or a moment. So there's still elements of their day being used, even if it's not their couple shoot, or they're not kind of front and center of that thing. They'll know that's their photo that you used.
I had a photographer the other day say that they had a bride kicking off at them because they didn't post their thing on Instagram, and like got angry, made a complaint, threatened reviews, all of this lot. I was like, that is crazy. Like, to expect that you're going to be on Instagram so much that you've done that. Like, you don't need that validation. But I understand why you would want that, to be like, oh yeah, that was my wedding, that's on their thing. But want is different to like expect and need, I guess.
That's what I find mad. Like, if that someone needs that level of validation that their wedding was good enough that their photographer posted it. And if they didn't do their wedding well enough. This is about finding someone that you want to spend your life with and having a day to, like, it's almost, it's so easy to lose sight of what the wedding's about, isn't it? And almost that person it's like, did you want an Insta-worthy day, or did you want a partner for life? That's what it comes down to. If you're getting that upset about it, like,
I find from our perspective, it's quite hard as well, because we're trying to create a brand, but at the same time, we don't know. There are certain things our couples might look at that we don't, and certain things that we look at that our couples don't. So, for example, I made a video quite recently, and I just didn't know whether to put it on Instagram. I was like, it's okay, but it's missing out all the things that I would try and put in a film, because the wedding just wasn't that. And it was a great wedding. I had an amazing time, but it had none of the things that I would try and put in a film. So I sent it to Josh and was like, do you think this is? I can post control this. Like, there was no like, bridal party shot or like champagne spray or any like the fun bits. There was none of the quirky stuff. There was not a lot of detail. Like, it was mainly just focused on the couple, and I was like, I don't really normally do that sort of stuff. I normally do all of like the fun bits in the video. Like, the ones I post are normally all fun bits, but and he was like, mate, the sort of vibe of the video and everything is much more important than it being Insta worthy, basically. So he said, post it, and I'd end up posting it. But like, it was missing a lot of things that I would try and get people to do at a wedding. Does
Don't you think that? Yeah, and also I think sometimes this time of year, it's so easy to get inside your own head. If you come home from a wedding that didn't go as well, the worst thing you can do, and I can sit and hold my hands up, like I've done it, is I've come home from that wet wedding, or that wedding that hasn't gone for whatever reason, and sit in bed at like, midnight or whatever, scrolling through Instagram, and you can already see all the other photographers you follow their stories that seem to have been in basked in gold sunshine in a cornfield, or someone else has gone to an absolute rave, or they've done whatever, or someone's in a destination and they're in a rowboat in Tuscany, and you've just come home from getting drowned wet in
some hotel.
And it's so easy to think, how are people ever going to book me when I've just shot this and they're all shooting that. And again, I think the topic of Instagram is huge, and something we'll definitely cover.
We're gonna have to cover that
going forward. But it's like, you can't get hung up on what everybody. You just got to stay in your lane, do what you do, and not be kind of swayed or be downhearted by what other people are posting, because you don't see what they're not posting.
100%.
You see everything of yourself, and only very, very small amounts of them.
You don't realise that everyone else is the same as you. They're picking and choosing what they're posting. Some people are a lot more than others as well. Yeah,
and you just said some people have different output levels. I was even looking the other day thinking, for the amount of weddings that I've edited this year already, I've probably delivered somewhere between 8,000 to 10,000 images back to couples. Which, when you think of that as a number, it's insane.
Yeah, and the percentage that you actually post on Instagram.
And I've definitely not even posted 1% of that.
Yeah, nuts, isn't it?
Like 1% of that would be what, like 80 to 100?
Yeah.
A moment on the grid, I'm probably lucky if I'm putting one post a week up.
Yeah.
Or two a week.
Same,
even if that's a carousel, I've probably barely scraped 1% of the images that I've put out.
I try to maintain 2 a week, but it's just getting too busy. Which probably leads quite well on to where we go.
Here we are, 20 minutes in now, I think. So the crux of today's episode is not just me and Chris to wind down at how busy we've been and how terrible life is we hopefully, you guys are having busy seasons as well, and we want to talk to you or offer some kind of, musings, of advice, words of wisdom about how to manage your workload at these peak times of year and avoided the dreaded B word.
But I think it's fine to be overwhelmed and busy during this, like really busy during this period. Like, if you're feeling sort of like things are on top of you and you're quite overwhelmed and like it's all crazy and you're maybe getting a bit of burnout, I kind of think that's normal. like, because let's be honest, our jobs aren't normal.
No.
All of our work, all of our main sort of really busy work is crammed into the summer. And then you've got the sort of the winter to regroup and edit and do anything you might need to do to your business, which doesn't actually take as much physical and mental energy as doing like going to the weddings and trying to do the pre-wedding calls and engagement shoots or whatever you guys do. Like, I think
yeah.
if you're feeling overwhelmed and burnt out, don't feel like every other person isn't and is dealing with it really well. They probably are as well.
It's just better at hiding it than you are. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or it's just like for me, I'm getting to burnout stage, but the year's been going well for me, so I'm still quite happy and cheerful and ready to go. I just feel like I maybe need a couple of nights sleep.
Yeah. I think as well is I'd be more worried if I didn't feel like this.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
It always hits me at different times of the summer. And I think we spoke about this when you walked through the door this morning and I was talking to you and you looked like you were just a body in front of me with no one actually home. Is that for me, it's normally August.
Yeah.
It normally hits me around mid-August. So we're only the 2nd of August today that we're recording this. So normally I'd know it's coming, where I kind of feel that I'm almost there already.
Yeah.
So maybe this year, again, but the way that kind of bookings stack up in different places, you have different pinch points in the year where you do hit that crazy time. But I think if I sailed for a whole year and got to the end of the wedding season and didn't be like, it's done, I've got nothing to do. Like the edit pile was getting smaller, not bigger. I'd be more worried if I wasn't getting that way. I'd worried that I was missing something or there was definitely a big hole in my business. I'm not saying that being overwhelmed is a great thing, but it's okay to have a busy time and a quiet time.
Yeah.
That's, I guess, the main
I'd be probably more worried about being quiet in the summer. Like if you were sat around in the summer watching all these photographers and videographers spending every weekend at weddings and you were like, oh, I don't have obviously it doesn't matter how many you do, I always say that, but like if you're twiddling your thumbs in the summer, you could probably be doing a bit more in our job, I think.
I think so, yeah. And there's that age-old expression of make hay while the sun shines.
Exactly.
People get, as much as wedding season now is becoming much more of a myth.
Or doesn't shine.
I think I'm going to, or just rains into the whole of July. Like I'm still shooting weddings, I think, in 9 or 10 months of this year. So it's not as if it's, literally our wedding diaries aren't a pyramid like they used to be, where you start in April, finish in December, and have to shoot everything in that small gap.
Mine still is.
But you still have a wedding season where, by law of averages, and particularly kind of July and August, I think, around the kind of kids' holiday time and the peaks of summer, or supposed to be summer, should be where you have the majority of your weddings, you would think so.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's completely fine. Mine's very much been a pyramid leading up to July. July is crazy. From now on, I'm chilling. I've got 10 weddings for the rest of, 4 or 5 months.
It's insane. Part of me, when you told me this earlier, part of me hated you a little bit inside. I think mainly because I feel like this now, and say July hasn't been particularly busy for me, but once I kind of hit the middle of August, I think I have a run from then until kind of the middle of October, where I'm literally just
flat out.
Yeah.
Oh, mad.
September, I think it's September and October are my busiest months of the year.
Yeah. But yeah, you're jealous of me, but also like you've kept the energy, like you can keep the energy flowing. Yeah. Whereas I've had a July where I've now got to somehow recover from it and then regroup and go on.
Kind of get a second wind to get you through those last 10 months of the year. Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it. So it's not like when we say get through, like it's only one of those things that we say, isn't it? Like we still love our jobs and it is what it is. So.
And I think some for me anyway is that's the main that I worry about. I don't complain about it because I don't want it to be that way. It's for me still making sure that I don't get sick, so that I can still go to all my weddings that I've got coming up this year. I can be at those weddings with as much presence and energy and enthusiasm as the ones that I did at the start of the year. And I still kind of have this cardinal fear and it's one of the points that I've put in our thing, so I might have to double cover this, is I still want everybody to be serviced with the same level of care.
Yeah, definitely.
That whether your wedding is in April or it's in July, that you still get all that level of contact and hand-holding and meetings and and wait time at the other end. Like I don't think that your weddings in April should get their galleries back in a week and then the guys in July should wait 10 weeks. It's almost kind of finding a medium along the whole way so that the service is kind of as fair or as equal or the experience is kind of as level as it can be regardless of the time of year.
But on the other hand, sometimes you can't do that. Like I'm gonna.
I'm an idealist, Chris.
Yeah,
in a lovely, fluffy world, everybody would be okay and everything would happen and nothing would. But it doesn't. And I know it doesn't exist like that. Yeah. But that's kind of the idea, or that's kind of that's the pinnacle for me. If I could get to that point where, despite feeling busy and having more on at certain times of the year, I would still love to feel as in control
Yeah.
as I do in those quiet
I'd
times.
love to
of
have
the
4
year.
weddings a month for like 7 months and be done. Do you know what I mean? Rather than, because I mean, I was really up to date before sort of mid-June, and then when I went on holiday, and when I came back from that, it kind of feels like it's been all out since then. But because of that, you know, people from May are still waiting for their films, and people from May have waited 3 times longer than people in April already, and it's like that's.
But at the same time, if you hadn't have taken that break in June, how, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad do you think you'd feel now? Like that burnout would arrive a whole down quicker if you hadn't have taken that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually leads on quite well to what we're going to talk about, which is we've split into 2 sections. That's prevention and management. So the idea is that you want to, if you're getting burnt out during the summer, then obviously just deal with it now. But think about in the winter what you can do to then make sure this doesn't happen as much again next year. Again, like we say, it's probably going to happen in the summer. Like at some point you're going to get tired because that's our jobs, right? But there's a lot of things you can do to ensure that during the summer you can cut off a lot of the fluff and do a little bit less to save your mind from going. And that's going to be prevention. And then management, when it comes to when you are feeling in the thick of things, what things can you do to then manage that? You know, when you have got a massive backlog or you're feeling burnout, what can you do to sort that out?
And I think these 2 kind of splits that you've put it into, and I can't take any of the credit for these. These are entirely yours in the notes, and I've just followed suit. It's like it is prevention is always better than cure. If you can see this coming and go, what can I do to prevent it? I think that's definitely, and always as well, none of us are perfect, and we're always learning. And to always, when you're feeling in those most burnt out kind of stages, is managing yourself through it, but then swearing to yourself at that point to go, it can't be this bad again. And when you're sat there in those quieter times at the start of the year, is going, what can I do to stop myself from feeling as bad as I felt at that time last 100%. Year? And almost channel some of that kind of anguish, tiredness, exhaustion, burnout, whatever you want, into giving you that energy to put those policies in place in your off season.
It's really good for you. Yeah, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the 2019 year where I did 54 weddings, absolutely hated my job. Something had to change. We raised our prices. We cut the film lengths. We take less weddings. We ditched a lot of corporate stuff. Like it sort of happened over COVID naturally, but like we never took it back. I now don't aim to do extra work, and now like, because you've learnt from your mistakes, sometimes you have to make those mistakes to do it and take all those weddings just because you think you need them. Sometimes you have to have that year where you're like, I don't know why I did that sort of thing.
I said that when I started out doing this, I had conversations with Ro, my wife, and was kind of like, she's like, well, how many do you want to do, and how many kind of can you do?
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure she'd love me to be at a wedding every weekend so that we could earn millions of pounds and live somewhere marginally nicer than we do now. But it's still kind of having that balance of physically, how many can I do, versus how many do I want to do, and it's making sure that I think I always said that I needed to do too many to know that I'd done too many, because something is only as good, or the tolerances on something are only as far as you push them. And I think for me, being forced to do that amount of postponements pushed over into 2021, there was no way that I was never gonna turn a booking away because I'm too busy. But I did, I think, 55 weddings in 2021 in pretty much 8 months of the year, 8 months of the year, because of the way that the lockdowns worked. And I got to the end of that year, and that's the closest that I've come to being broken. Like I got on the plane to go on holiday in November, and was like, I literally ache everywhere, and my brain was spent, and I knew then that there was no way that I could ever reach it with the systems that I had in place at that time, and only being one of me, I could never do that many again. And then kind of, so, you know, we sit here as places going, oh, we want to charge more to do less. I'm not doing that because I'm lazy. I'm not doing that because I want to, you know, sit at home counting my money or go on more holidays. No. I want to still give the same amount of energy levels that I've got to everybody, just to less people, so that, again, that service, that experience, that amount that I give, I can do that without compromising my quality.
And like you say, it does sound like such a cop-out saying that, but it really does. Reducing your numbers really does. And also, I don't think I've put this, but give yourself a buffer of weddings. I would say, if you're aiming to take 35, take 30, and then just leave yourself some room for some last minute ones, because there might be some that come in last minute. Whereas if you've taken 35 for, let's say, 2024, and it's January, and you've got hundreds of inquiries coming in for 2024, then you're going to want to take some of them, and you're going to be tempted to do that, and probably going to do that. And then that's going to mess you up.
I think as well, that's why, and one, I don't do it because I think one, I've never really got to that stage. I don't think it's healthy for other people that look upon you. I've never wanted to stand there, kind of stick my flag in the ground and go, I'm fully booked for this year.
Yeah.
Because I know then that would potentially ward away some great weddings, or
Definitely.
someone that even wanted a couple of hours in a midweek or something like that. Like, you know, I wouldn't even get that inquiry anymore.
But you also don't want to be at a point where you book too many before the year starts, because then, like you say, you'll be warding off some that you like, or you'll be taking them unnecessarily and then getting stressed.
Definitely, yeah. I think I'm at a point this year, the moment where I've got about 2/3 of my weddings for where I'd like to be for next year.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this while we went and had our lunch. I'm not worried about my lack of inquiries at the moment because it is the summer. Yeah. But I also, again, tentatively wouldn't want to finish the year with many more weddings than I've got now. So the stuff that does come in, I want to make sure that I definitely, in sensible gaps that I've got, I'm not volunteering myself to have 6 weekends in a row, you know, without a weekend off, or they want to be, I can afford to be a little bit more choosy because I know where I am. And I also still know how much I've turned down for this year because I've already been booked.
Exactly.
So it's having, say, like, and everybody tells you it. So, and I think, and I've come to realize as I've started to climb up a bit, it's true, is that the better weddings do come at less notice. So you've exactly like you've just said, you want to make sure there's a little bit of room in the diary so that when that absolute golden egg of an inquiry comes in, you don't open your diary and go, oh, I'm at the local hotel at the end of my road doing a really, really budget wedding.
Yeah.
And I've just turned down this incredible day.
I found the opposite this year, which is weird, because I remember you telling me at the beginning of the year that like you're finding that last minute bookings are coming in often.
I turned down a couple of absolute stormers this year.
I've taken some last minute bookings this year they're not like bad weddings. I'm not saying they're bad weddings, but they've all gone for the lowest package, whereas people book me in advance often go for a bit of a higher. So that's just what I found about last minute bookings for us this year for some reason.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but a lot of the stuff to prevent this we've covered in episode 1. I think the first episode we did was about how to prepare for a wedding season.
Yeah,
and some of this is actually relates back to what we're talking about now, which is this preparation can really give you the leg up you need so that during wedding season, you're not having to, for example, Student Ninja workflows, you're not having to then email every couple and trying to book in a pre-wedding meeting with them. You're not having to email every couple and send them a link to the wedding film tracker afterwards or something, or like a chase for an invoice. You're literally, you have a setup that's, you know, for us, it's like 6 weeks before they get an email with the questionnaire and a prompt to book a call, basically. And that's already sent out automatically. And like, I don't have to worry about that. And those sort of automations will help you down the line. So sort them out in the winter, get them nailed so that you have to do. And it can be a little bit impersonal, but a lot of the things like invoice chasing and stuff is awkward anyway. So if it's automated, I was in somewhere recently saying like, it's really awkward having to do that in a just a regular email. But if you send a Student Ninja one saying this is an automated email that your invoice,
that's what I want to say. Bad cop yourself against a robot. Yeah, and I did that now. Like I had an email conversation this morning with a couple where they obviously they'd paid their final bill a little bit early, and they'd also sent me the questionnaire which I asked for all their details. Yeah. So my Student Ninja sent out the receipt straight after. It took me another day to reply to their questionnaire. Yeah. So in that one, I was like, thank you so much for sending the questionnaire over. That's really helpful, which it is. Hopefully you got an email from from RobotMe saying that your bill got paid and you got your receipt. So that I know that when that email comes out, when I'm talking as me, like actual me, I can still be like fluffy happy Tom because we're talking fun stuff about weddings.
Not money. Yeah.
Where when they get business robot Tom, I can afford to be a little bit more direct in those emails and kind of make out that it is an automated email so that they don't kind of feel that, you know, happy Tom that turned up to their wedding isn't giving them a telling off because they haven't paid me yet.
You don't have to be like, hey guys, looking forward to your wedding. By the way, you owe me £1,000.
Exactly. You can afford to kind of be a little bit more direct and a little bit more robot-y in those because they know that they're getting the robot version of you. Yeah. And if you don't try and hide behind that, if there ends up being like a little glitch in the system, you don't make yourself look as bad. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Where if you send an email out, like I had one, I must have been earlier in the year. So I always send emails that say like 6 weeks and a month, then a week to go. Yeah. My couple were away. I was there. I literally only got to their email, their final call, like 8 days before their wedding. Yeah. So literally the next morning they got an email from me going, haven't heard from you for a while, but hope everything's okay Yeah. You know, we're so close to the wedding. And they're like, you spoke to me yesterday. What would have changed in the last 12 hours? You know, so kind of by moving those over to being a little bit more kind of robot-y based, you don't set yourself up to look as stupid.
Yeah. It's like, this is a different person.
They would know that that's not me sat there emailing them at 9 o'clock that morning, having spoken to them the previous evening.
I have that with the payment thing because I have it to chase them every 2 days after after it's due, but sometimes I forget to record it as paid. So I think the email says, if you've already paid, please ignore this. But sometimes I'll be like, a couple of days in, I'll be like, oh, it sent them 2 emails chasing for the payment they paid a week ago.
Don't you find that's a good tip that I learned? And I get that from HMRC, having someone that's just paid their second payment on account, is that I get the email from them, it's definitely due, and then underneath, if you've already paid it, please ignore it. Our system takes a while to catch up. And that's from the government.
That is the idea.
So it's like, if I can work at the same, if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me.
But we both put here setting expectations as well.
That I think is the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think that idea of under promising and over delivering, I think is a really big thing in business, particularly with people anyway. But if you tell people what they want to hear and go, oh yeah, your wedding gallery will be ready in a couple of weeks, I'll do my best for you. Yeah. And then they wait 6 and it's still not ready.
Yeah.
But if you tell people,
you've then annoyed them basically.
From the beginning, you go, look, I'm really sorry, but you know what I do. You know how busy summers are for wedding photographers. It's going to be 8 weeks before you get your gallery.
Yeah.
For me as a photographer, it's slightly different for you. I'll give you a preview, so you've got something to share. You've got something to see from the wedding quite quickly, and then the rest will be a little wait. If you used to deliver that in 6 weeks, for them in their head, something's told them it's going to be 2 months after our wedding that we get our gallery. If you pop in 2 weeks early, you're still golden. But if you promise them 4 weeks and then deliver in 7... and also that at that point, particularly with gallery edits, is to a degree that's the last interaction you have with that couple. And do you really want them to finish on a sour note with them having to keep sending you emails going, "Where's my gallery? Where's my gallery?
You said it would be.
Have you ghosted me?
Yeah.
Like, have you got my photos? Like, where if you kind of finish on that real big high of boom, there they are.
Yeah,
they're early. They're early delivered. Like, thanks so much for the ride. It's been brilliant. The journey's been great. Leave me a cool review. Why would they not? I'm gonna say you're still leaving them on a high. Hopefully, because they've got a bunch of photo or video that they love. And also sooner than their brain told them to get excited about it.
Yeah. Which is always a nice little surprise for them.
Exactly that.
On the other side of things, though, as well, if you set that sort of unrealistic deadline, you can end up making something that you might not be proud of. Maybe you've rushed it a little bit.
Exactly.
I know a few videographers. I think there's probably a lot more people that do this than I know, that give the couple that say, oh, it's going to come within 2 weeks, the trailer, and then during summer it'll be literally 14 days, or maybe even there'll be a day or two behind or something.
Yeah.
And that would play with my mind so much. And why would you give yourself a deadline, especially in mid-wedding season? You'd be like, oh, this trailer's coming within 2 weeks. Like, I see the purpose in trying to get it expedited and getting it out soon, because obviously the couple's still excited. You can capitalize on that. They'll share it and all of that lot. But if you're giving them the expectation of 2 weeks, that is going to increase your likelihood of burning out, in my opinion, and getting really stressed and having those deadlines. If you're setting hard deadlines with the couple, then be prepared to get more burnt out than someone like me. I don't have any hard deadlines. You get your film when you get your film. If a couple ask me, when's it coming? I say the contract says 6 months. The longest we've ever taken is 4 months. And the last couple has waited 2 months. And just be like, that's how I answer.
But I think as well that, again, in that idea of prevention though, when did you build your tracker?
2020.
So again, Chris, you probably explain better than me. You have a page on your website, don't you, which you update weekly, daily?
Every time something gets
happens.
Updated.
So that there is somewhere, and I think this is in the modern world that we expect now, in the world of days like Amazon, where you can order something and expect it the next day, or if you order a pizza, do you know what I mean? Like the app that had the pizza on tells you when your pizza's in the oven or in the car or at your door. Is people come used to that level of kind of oversight to where their things are. Do you know what I mean? Like now, if you get like a DPD delivery, you watch the little red van drive around the roads on Google Maps, so you know when it's outside your door. And if you can make, say, something as simple as a spreadsheet that sits on a web page on your website, or I know for me that during real peak times, I'll post an Instagram story pretty much at the beginning of every week going, here's where the edit queue's moved. And the amount of people that screenshot the edit queue go, I'm third on the list, woo! And get that to get as a reason to get excited. So from last week, they can see they've moved up 2 places, you can send them, you give them that link when you drop the preview up to know that they've got that. They know exactly where they are. So that's setting an expectation for them without you having to do anything. Without having to write an email, which is then stopping you from editing their film, which puts you even further behind.
Yeah, it stops you getting chased. And when we speak to couples about it, we'll tell them in the little pre-wedding chat, we'll be like, oh yeah, after the wedding, we'll send you a tracker. and they'll joke about it and be like, oh, is that so we don't chase it? And I was like, no, not necessarily, but it does help.
But what's it going to gain by them chasing you? If they can see that they're third on the list or their wedding is half complete, there's no point in the messaging going, is it ready yet? Is it ready yet?
Exactly.
Because they can see that it's not.
So so it's literally a little client area. They can log in. It shows where they are in the queue amongst the other people, and then it's got like each of their films as well, so that they can see, that someone's currently editing their speeches, even though they're fourth in the queue. Someone's still editing their speeches somewhere down the line. So, and then that gets updated every time something gets cut. And you can see when people log into it and stuff to see what, how they're feeling about it. Some people won't ever log in. Some people log in every day. Yeah. And you're kind of like, oh wow, okay, you're gonna be waiting a while still. I don't know why you're logging every day. But it's such peace of mind for the couple, and every couple loves it. I'm not sure about Instagram stories because I'm not sure how I feel about posting like 10 couples and someone looking at my thing and being like, oh my god, how many have they got in their queue at the moment, sort of thing.
Maybe it's different because mine can change quite quickly. It all depends. If I have a week where I'm shooting or out the office 3 day shooting, it might not move too much. But if I have a day where I've got 3 office days, particularly my Tesco's meal deal's coming back for me today. It's there. It's stopped me from talking.
I can almost feel it as you do the motion.
Like last week, or the last episode, I spoke that I managed to do 3 weddings in 3 days. Now that I've got my AI working for me again, I've managed to get into a real nice kind of groove of editing a wedding and then culling the next one in a day. Yeah. So then that one, I can leave that one to load into AI overnight, so it's ready to kind of tweak the next one. Or keeping that kind of that gallery moving, where when I post my tracker on the next day, people that were now 4th in the queue have jumped to like they're next on screen.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you mean.
It seems to be... So even if I'm adding 2 on the end, people are still moving up. So maybe even though the queue might not be getting that much shorter, or it might be getting longer, people can still see movement in it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I've always been like... I've seen quite a bit over on Instagram, people doing this over the last few weeks that have kind of been quite cryptic and only just put initials up. And whether that's due to like safeguarding couples, but I always think just with like first names is fine.
First names, you know what I mean? Or it's enough. Anybody,
I had a really weird one 2 years ago where I had 2 Georgia and Harrys that were almost exactly a month apart. Yeah. So they were both on there. And it was really odd. And in the end, they were like, which one's us? And it was like, because they didn't know where, because they didn't put any dates to it. They were kind of, well, which one's them? Are they coming there? And it was really, really bizarre. But the odds of getting a couple with exactly the same name, exactly like 3 or 4 weeks apart.
I've had that a couple of times. And Amy and Tom, I think they had that twice in a year.
It's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, so weird how it always ends up that way. And then you won't get one for like a couple of years. Yeah, that's very strange. So going on from that then, outsourcing. You can outsource some things. Yeah. Think about what it is. So personally, I've not had a good experience of outsourcing. I tried outsourcing editing for about 2 years, and it never really went well. Like, by never went well, I mean, I'd say probably 80% of the films were great, sent to the couple, all good. But I'd say 20% of them I'd say, okay, put it the other way. I'd say most of them I thought I could do a better job if I just did it myself. Yeah. And knowing that you could have done a better job, even though it saved you loads of time and stuff like that, I feel like when I outsourced video editing, it was so much a case of this video is good quality. It's just missing something of the vibe and like the feel. That wasn't the feel of the wedding.
And I think as well, you've got to be able to stand behind it. When that product's coming out under your name, if you can look at it and go, even though I filmed that, I'm not proud of that edit. Yeah. There's still something in you which can't kind of stand behind it and be a champion for it in the same way. And I think that's what I've put in my notes somewhere. Yeah, I said it is there. So in terms of prevention, I've used every tool in your power to streamline your workflow and workload, but without never compromising the quality of the output. Yeah. So I think that's kind of summarised what we're saying pretty well. Exactly, is there are lots of things in your job that you can do that don't need to be done by you, and
you might have absolutely
no, like you don't physically need to do that task, and it'll be no different whether you do it or a robot does it or somebody else that you hire does it. But there's certain things that you can look at that and go, I could do that better. That's definitely something at that point that you still need to be doing.
Like your sort of AI editing, really, isn't it? Like
exactly that. Yeah.
You doing that isn't going to compromise the quality, but it's going to save you a lot of time.
Or building my USB boxes. Yeah. Like I have a set way of how they go together. But whether I do it or I pay a company to do it in-house, or even I say to my wife, can you really help me? If I do one and I've got 6 to do, we can both sit for 20 minutes at the dining room table and put them all together.
Yeah.
They won't know whether I've wrapped it by hand and stuck the sticker on it.
Yeah.
Or she has.
Yeah, true.
It's still the same thing, but it still saved me what would be a day, of putting them all together, burning all that.
Yeah.
Build it all together, or if it's even simple, it's like, say, certain simple tasks which the time can slowly roll away on. If you can get somebody else to do that for you or help you with that, it's not.
Also, things like ceremony and speeches is probably the similar thing to that for video. Is that it's linear editing? It's not like creative editing. You're literally just editing a multi-camera edit with some sound on it. That's that. I mean, you could outsource that. If like me, you found that outsourcing the videos isn't working out for you creatively, you can outsource the stuff that's not as creative. My father-in-law is currently doing all of our ceremony and speeches, and he's cracking at it. So good. I suppose
once you can teach somebody how to do that process, this is what I've always wondered. Like for me, obviously, using an AI, or even when you used to use external editors, I never have, but obviously I know people that do. Is that, like smart previews in Lightroom for that were an absolute game changer.
Yeah.
So that I don't have to then try and give somebody 900 of my raws to edit. It makes this smart preview of them, which is kilobyte big. I can export, a whole gallery at like a tiny file, give them that, they edit that, bring it back, and I'll hook it up. Yeah. But how do you do that with footage? Do you just give somebody like 1,000 million gigabytes of footage and go make sense of it for me?
No, there's a video equivalent. So we make proxies,
So proxies the same as like a smart preview?
Yeah, basically. Like downscales it to like 720p or something, and then you just send them that. And then it comes back and you relink it into the 4K version. Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. I've learned something today. If you're a photographer that has no idea about proxies, then
I actually never did that. Because I don't really know why. I always uploaded the full quality ones to the editors. I don't honestly know why, but I've never worked with proxies. So proxies generally as well are for people that have obviously don't have the computer power to edit, so they'll edit on proxies and then relink it back at the end and export the 4K version. Okay. I've always just been like, I don't want to have to. That's extra time for me in exporting. Whether I can go and make a cup of tea, I don't care. Like that's still extra time. So I'll just buy a computer that's good enough to handle whatever.
See, it's interesting.
I've never used proxies. But.
So when I first started with Lightroom, I always used to just edit as it was when I was still doing all of my editing from beginning to end on originals. But using smart previews and having the point that I could just unplug the hard drive and go anywhere to edit it definitely sped up my editing. Or even just that ability to not have to carry my hard drive with me everywhere. Was absolute game changer.
Yeah, that's good. And then the last thing we've got for prevention is managing your priorities. So if you're in the middle of wedding season, you're thinking, I'm not sure about my bookings, or I'm not sure about my branding at the moment. Maybe I need to start changing my brand. It's probably the wrong time to do it.
So fun though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who else decided to change their website when they were just to procrastinate on an edit?
I do the same.
The other day I was like that. I was like, maybe I could just revamp my portfolio. Yeah. You've got 10 galleries on the pile, but
the summer is not the time to do those sort of things. The major ones anyway. If you're doing a major brand redesign, logo change, whatever, I feel like those things are to be done in the winter. If you're already feeling burnt out and you're thinking, I don't like my brand name, I want to change and try and be more high end or something like that. I feel like plan it for a winter slot, because you're going to add more to your pot that's pointless adding to your pot essentially. So I'm like you say, I'm guilty of doing it for procrastination, and I feel like there is something in that, taking a break from staring at photos to go and do something else. For me, I've been working on the brochure and stuff like that just in the background. If I'm really tired of staring at this film, I'll go and quickly work on the brochure because it's something different. But,
see, I found, and I haven't done it this year yet, but one of the things that have worked for me over those really big volume years is to edit weddings in pairs if you get stuck.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah.
Sometimes, I love all my couples, and most of them I could look at for but when you look at the same person's face for all day, I feel like I probably know what that mole on the right side of their cheek better than they do. It's probably time to look at somebody else's faces. So I found that when I was getting my editing pile was getting particularly large, if I edited 2 weddings alongside each other, once I got fed up of looking at these people, I could jump to my next wedding, and then I almost feel like I'm starting a whole new task again, start to edit them. Then when I get sick of their faces, go back and finish the other one. So I almost felt like I was being double productive, but without getting burnt out on one single long task.
Yeah, no, I think that's the way forward as well. Is trying to give yourself different, and then you can split it throughout the day rather than like you say.
And I guess as well, it's maybe different with video because if you don't edit a film completely linearly, is that a word? Linearly?
Yeah, linearly.
You know what I mean? Anyway, so I know a lot of people that edit wedding galleries backwards. Because the energy does that for the day and increases. So it's much better to start a wedding edit on the dance floor than it is to start it in venue shots and prep.
Yeah. But then what happens when you get to venue shots and prep? Surely it's like really.
I find that. So in the end, I ended up starting the venue shots and prep because prep's one of my favourite parts of the day.
Yeah.
For me, it's group shots and speeches, which I hate editing because they're marginally the same.
Yeah.
So I'll normally chug through prep, then get through the ceremony, get through the candids, get to groups, go, I'm done with this. Then go to dance floor and then work my way
Fair
back
play.
until I hit speeches.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I've got like this like lump in the middle of, I've got to edit this. And then that's the time that you flick to the other edit because I'm done with it.
Because you're like done with that.
And then when I wake up the next morning, I go back to my desk and I'm ready to like eat the worm,
Go
as
fresh.
it were,
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the bottom of the bottle, like jump straight in, get the groups done, get the speeches done, and then jump. Yeah,
I have a little triangle system. So let's say I've split my editing jobs into like 5 jobs maybe. So you've got like culling the footage, ceremony and speeches, trailer, and then main film. So it was like 4 jobs. I'll have one wedding going on each of those jobs. So if I'm editing the full film for one wedding, I'll be editing the highlights for another wedding, the ceremony and speeches for another, and then culling another. So I've got 4 weddings on the go, each at a different stage. So I'm always like, oh, I fancy culling today. I've got one to cull. Or I fancy doing ceremony speeches today. That's the one I've got to do.
and I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways from this is having the brain space or the capacity to sometimes to. It's really easy, like you're saying, when you're the meme where everything's on fire and you're sat there going, it's all fine, it's all fine.
Yeah.
If you haven't got the brain capacity that day to do that task, find another task that you can do that you have got the brain capacity for.
Yeah.
And sometimes even if a wedding's getting nearer and nearer to deadline and you just can't seem to get through it, or this sometimes just having like that half a day away from it, when you go back to it with fresh eyes, you can see the solution or you can see the way it's going so much better.
Definitely.
And I think that's something I've got in management as well, which I know that we've both done it recently, is don't stay up all night working, doing this, because it will only make you less productive the next day to being so damn tired. Yeah. And I've done this where I've gone, I need to get it done. And my wife's gone to bed and I've gone back to my desk at say 10, worked through till 1 a.m, almost fallen asleep on my keyboard. And then when I've gone back to my desk and looked at what I edited the last night,
you're like,
I was doing it bleary-eyed. It was so rubbish anyway. I had to stop and re-edit it all anyway.
Yeah.
So I think, well, now I'm super tired doing this. Like having those kind of boundaries in work, but as well as in players go, no, I do need to look after myself, or taking that half a day to go to the gym to keep your fitness up.
Yeah.
That stuff is still just as important as chugging, like a steam train through your workflows.
I think it depends on whether how you do work at night. I did a whole re-edit at night once when I was like, I'm not happy with this. I need to redo this whole film. So I literally got the whole film and started at like 10, finished at like 2, 3 in the morning. And like the couple were absolutely chuffed with it. And I was
I think your payoff though is then you shouldn't feel guilty till staying in bed till midday.
Yeah, no, yeah. So
you know what I mean? That's
expect that you're
what I
going to
meant
wake up.
is don't burn the candle at both ends to try and be more productive, because it won't pay off for you. That's what I was trying to say is if you think, if I can stay up till 1 but then still get up at 6 to do my emails, you're on a shortcut to burning out.
You're asking for it, yeah.
You're overworking, and whether that overtime exists in other jobs for that, but it's not conducive to being the most productive, is what I was trying to say. Is or if you naturally work better at night or you work early in the morning. Excuse me. That's great. Anybody who's in a work day has work hours, and whether that shifts that you're an early riser and you want to finish early or you want to start late and work late, is we have the ability to do that as self-employed people.
Yeah.
So use that to your advantage, but don't abuse it to the point where you get more tired. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and this comes back to the whole setting yourself deadlines or setting deadlines for the couple as well. If you're setting deadlines for the couple and they're expecting their film within 2 weeks, you're probably going to be there in the summer working like late nights and early mornings. And that's why I think that it's not necessarily great to set an unrealistic expectation to the couple. Well, it might be realistic at the time, but like you don't know what's going to happen, and if you're going to get shoots and jobs and things that are going to stop that from happening, and then you end up doing late nights, and then you end up having to wake up next morning because you've agreed to do something else. And I think that's where that comes in, of like either set realistic deadlines or just give them like a generic time, like we do, sort of thing. And then you can prioritize a bit better and be like, okay, this is due then, so I've got a few days to do that. And it's only, I'm trying to strike a better work-life balance this year, and it's only in the last few weeks.
It's a constant battle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's only in the last few weeks where I've been like, okay, I'll have no work-life balance. That's to be expected. I'm completely fine with that. It used to happen for a few months of the year. Now it's only happening for like a few weeks, basically. That's all good. But I think it's only now I've started to be like, okay, dinner's finished. I need to go back to the computer and edit because I've got something due by tomorrow, either this podcast or a YouTube video or some sort of corporate deadline. Like, And that doesn't often happen. But if you can prioritize and not set yourself unrealistic deadlines, meeting with prioritizing helps you sort of get things in order.
But I think you're looking at that work-life balance in this instance under, say, a weekly microscope. At the moment, I have no work-life balance because I'm worked all week. But if you zoom out a little and look at months or 3 months, as long as you if you have a busy or intense 3 months of the year, to look at when you are quieter and not feel guilty for having a couple of days that week in the down season of the year where you do just sit and watch Netflix all day or go out with your friends or whatever. You don't have to run. I know that during those kind of down seasons of the year that I'm probably going in at my desk 2 to 3 days a week. I'm using that rest of that time to kind of catch up and almost pay myself. If you're in a day job and you were racking up time off in lieu all over the summer because you were working 6-7 days a week, you get it back. And so as long as that work-life balance doesn't have to always just look at that on a Monday to Friday basis, you can zoom that out over a monthly basis or whatever. And I think one of the other biggest lessons that someone taught me, and I can't remember who, so I can't thank them for it, or kind of tricks and tips that I got is that when it comes to boundaries is if you work better late at night, that's totally okay. But if you start replying to emails at 1 a.m, your couples will think it's okay to email you at 1 a.m. because they're at your desk. Schedule senders will be your absolute lifesaver. So I kind of advertise loosely that I will be at my desk roughly office hours, dates pending these days. But if I come home from a wedding and I'm super wired, while I'm backing it up, if I've got 5 or 6 emails that I need to get done, I might do them while I'm at my desk anyway, waiting for the thing to back up. But they'll all get scheduled sent for 9 a.m. the next morning.
True, yeah.
So then my couple think, okay, it's fine. And if you only reply to them during office hours, they'll know that you are only contactable during office hours. Where if you have a couple which do, they work all day, put kids to bed, then sit down and do all their wedding admin at between 9 and 11 in the evening. If you start replying to them then, they'll go, oh, but they're working anyway, and think nothing of picking the phone up to you at 5 to 11 on a Friday night. Or they'll think nothing of doing that. So it's almost subliminal ways that you're almost setting boundaries to couples. If someone messages you at 3 p.m. on a Sunday, you don't have to reply to them till 9 a.m. the next morning. You don't have to. Or if you do, you say you can set those schedule senders so that you're still managing your work diary or your work hours as to when is best with you, but you're still giving this perception that you are keeping kind of sociable hours. Yeah,
it's frustrating. I recently had a message on a Saturday and then another email later on the same day to chase that one. It's it's a Saturday in August or July. What are you doing?
They should think, Lord, you are going to be at a wedding.
And it wasn't that urgent at all. Like the wedding.
It never normally is. So I think that was a really big game changer for me. I used to be terrible, particularly before I went full time, and I used to come home from work, have dinner, and then do all my work in the evening. The amount of times that I'd send emails at 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then people would actively ring you or contact you at those times because they think that's the best time to get you, not at 2 in the afternoon. And moving over to that, someone's literally just set up a schedule sender, schedule everything to go out. It's much better.
I need to start having my calls during the day. I have calls client calls in evenings. And this year we've limited the evenings, so we do Monday and Wednesday evenings now, which has already improved our quality of life. But I don't like doing calls in weekdays during the day because in my head that's my editing time. And if I'm interrupting editing time with a call, then I feel like that time around that call is taken. My gym has got to revolve around the call as well. And I'm not going to get much editing that day because I'm doing the gym, then I'm doing the call. So I'll just separate the evening and be like, okay, I'm going to do calls in the evening and then editing during the day.
I find the same.
That long.
I find people would think that they're doing you a favour by having a daytime call because you're working the day, where sometimes I actually push for either late afternoon calls so they go into the end of my working day or an evening for that reason. For me to come back to my desk to chat to a couple for 20 minutes or half an hour, I don't think of that as hard work. But if I know that I'm trying to get through my emails and I've got 3 more to do, oh crap, they're going to ring me in 10 minutes. It breaks my flow of stuff. Or if you're on an editing run, I know that there's Pomodoro methods and times that you should only spend this amount of time. But if I'm on a roll with an edit, I'm steam training through it until it's done. And if anything breaks my concentration on that, whether the doorbell goes for a parcel or you jump on a call or whatever else, once I've lost it, I find it hard to get back to it. So to manage kind of, I can afford to be more sedate or less focused on a call. It's because it's not hampering editing time. I know that
around that you're not
exactly
doing
that,
anything in particular that you need to sink your teeth into, basically. And apparently it takes the average person 15 minutes to get back into full concentration on something. So every time you think you pick up your phone between editing a photo or something, it's another 15 minutes it's going to take you to get fully back into 100% concentration mode on that. And that's why, like, obviously not having your phone around and stuff like that is a big deal. But things like with editing, I don't know, I think a lot of people can relate to this with video editing. When you like hit the stabilize button in Premiere Pro, it then comes up with like, this is going to take 60 seconds to stabilize. And you're like, get the phone out. And then like 10 minutes later, you're still there. You're like, clip is stabilized, which is why like, this is going to sound preachy, but switching to DaVinci Resolve, where it only takes like a couple of seconds, has like actually sped up my editing time massively. Not necessarily because of those 58 seconds and the difference in stabilizing, but mainly because I'm not picking up my phone between like adding little effects and stuff.
And I think it's those things, isn't it? It's also just being smart with, let's face it, there are tasks that take time to do.
Yeah.
So I find, again, if I can colour wedding in an evening, I can load it into Imagen overnight. I know it's going to take between 10 and 15 minutes to get that gallery edited and then ready to download.
Yeah.
So I always want to be working whilst I'm at my computer. I don't want to be waiting.
Yeah.
So if I can find that if I finish an edit at the end of the day, the most satisfying thing is finishing an edit about 5 minutes before you finish work. So I can literally line it up to export and walk away from my computer knowing that's going to take 40 minutes to export.
Yeah.
Because to literally dip back into my office an hour later and go, it's done, pull the hard drive out and shut the lid on it.
Yeah.
It's done.
Job done,
but I haven't sat there with a slow computer working through an export trying to do other tasks.
Yeah.
Or if you know that you've got to wait for stuff, try and position that in your morning that you can go, okay, that's now going to render. I'm going to get lunch.
Yeah.
And when I come back from lunch, it's ready to work on.
That'll be done.
I'm not just sat there waiting for these odd tasks. Like I say, as soon as you pick your phone up or open that internet browser, you're just going to wander.
Very true as well.
Else.
The export times of your editing software do make a huge difference as well. I used to have an old MacBook Pro, like 15-inch, and I used to set it to export, and it used to be like a 5 to 10 hour job or something. I used to leave it on overnight exporting, and during the day, if I needed something delivered that day, I would have to set to export, and then I couldn't do anything that day. This is a long time ago now, but like thinking back now, like the amount of work I would not get done if I had to do that right now, I'd be so stressed.
I found it even like changing my internet. Like before we moved here and we were in our flat and we didn't have fibre internet, it would take me between 5 to 6 hours to upload an online gallery to my online gallery provider. So I had to leave them all overnight running.
Yeah.
Where now it's like, it's half hour or whatever. But again, I know if I can get in the morning or have that gallery built, so all I've got to do is drag and drop it and leave it.
Yeah.
Half an hour's a dog walk.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I can even just get to my desk, drop it in, take him out, or again, over lunch, I've edited it this morning, let's get it uploaded.
Yeah.
So while you're doing kind of other tasks or home tasks or whatever, it's still that idea of kind of working smarter, not harder, isn't it? I mean, that's
those little investments in like cutting down little bits of time that sort of suck up valuable editing time during the day, sort of thing.
That's it. And 40 seconds for a stabilizer, it's only 40 seconds. If you do that 20 times a day or 10 times a day, 5 days a week,
and pick up your phone every time or change the tab and go,
it all adds up. Yeah. Well, like you say, you go, try and do an email in the gap. You won't, because you can't focus on that
exactly.
in 40 seconds.
Yeah. I used to find I'd watch so many YouTube videos when I was working. And since moving to DaVinci Resolve, while everything's quicker, I don't do it anymore because there's not that little gap where I'm like, I've got 30 seconds, just quickly switch over and see what's happening on Facebook or whatever, on Instagram. Now I don't have those gaps anymore, so I don't really find myself procrastinating half as much. That's a really silly thing, and I know some people are going to be like, stop saying switch to DaVinci Resolve, because that's a thing in the video industry. Everyone who's got it says that, and everyone who's not got it is like, stop saying that.
But I think it's even silly things like, when I moved to my big monitor or whatever, even just maximising Windows, just to get a Lightroom and take it full screen, so that I can't see what's pinging up behind it, or I can't even just flick to the bottom to my toolbar to go, I'm going to do this. Like, it's why, again, not as an advert for us, but podcasts for me during editing, I know you can't because you've got to audio edit too, are great because they're long form. For me to click on something and know that I can open that window and I haven't got to go back into Spotify for an hour or an hour and a quarter, that won't break my concentration. Where if I have to minimise the edit, get Spotify up, find something else again, you've lost time. So it's going to say is maximising Windows out to full screen to kind of hide any distraction of anything else other than that task. For me, it's huge.
That's what sometimes I have two monitors up and I'll find myself with Chrome up on one monitor like by accident or something, and I'll be editing, and then something will pop up on there. I'll be like, oh,
and that's the end. Divert your attention. I need to work on that. I need to do that.
So now I always have one monitor with even nothing, or just like reference material for the project sort of thing. So we're getting on a bit with the episode. We're over an hour now, so
wow.
It's quite good for an episode like this. But I wanted to mention something which actually resonated with me, which was saying no to short notice work and tasks. So obviously we both do a certain level of like corporate work. I don't do it as much anymore. I'm assuming you meant that sort of work for this stuff.
Yeah.
And corporate stuff is always
and weddings.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But with weddings, I don't feel like you because have no tie to that couple who's calling you saying, no, their video was backed out last minute, that you don't really feel like you need to do it. Whereas if you've worked for a company for X amount of years and they call you and be like, oh, I already need this done next week, mate.
Yeah.
Like, I would probably instantly try and say yes. Whereas like...
Well, you feel you have to
you have to say yes. And if you're already burnt out and everything's crazy and then a client is calling you saying, I need you next week, that's on them. Like,
what did I say to you earlier about this? Do you remember?
No.
Their bad planning does not make it your emergency.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that because I'm definitely a victim of that. I'll definitely be like, oh, if I don't do that, I'm going to lose that client.
I think we all are. Like when you are self-employed, there's still something within you, I think, which says that you have to say yes to every job and you have to keep everybody happy. And I'm not saying that you can't, but it all comes back to that bigger picture of setting boundaries. Is that if somebody forgets to book you and rings you up with a drop of a hat and goes, I need you tomorrow, I need you now.
Yeah.
And you'll go, yeah, mate, no problem. I'll be there.
Yeah.
It won't give them any more urgency to not do that to you in the future.
No, exactly.
Where if you turn around and go, it ain't happening. If you want me, it's 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They'll make sure they book you the fortnight's notice next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I've been trying to get into the habit of just being like, if if they're calling me, it's like, oh, it'll be another 2 weeks before I'm available. You can book me in, sort of thing. Yeah. But there's always going to be, corporate work is wibbly anyway. Like often there's a lot more scope to reschedule things.
Yes.
If things aren't exactly to plan, they'll call you and be like, oh, actually we need to change this day, and then it becomes a whole thing, and that can really stress you out. And that's a lot of the reason why I've stopped doing corporate work is because it's a bit like that. So like sometimes your focus is in so much on weddings and things. And then someone rings up, wants a corporate job. Okay, I can shoot this week. So you turn up to shoot, I need it by next week, mate. And you're like, well, no. And then you start getting that really sort of conflicting thing because they always need it next week, don't they?
That's what's been the biggest, I think, suck of my time, or the reasons led me to feeling a lot the way that I do at the moment. Because I've had some quieter weeks and weddings, I have picked up some commercial work. But because you naturally think, I'll go on the pile and I'll get to it. But when it is, you're working on, we need the heroes within 24 hours and the edit within the 7 days.
Yeah.
They're kind of jumping over the wedding queue sometimes. It's like, well, I'm struggling to find a desk day to get that out on deadline. If I've got to then try and shoehorn this in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
And whilst, the volume of images is shorter, but they still need it sooner. I am very good at going, that date's free for the shoot, but I almost need to also allocate the day to edit it.
Yeah.
And fit both into the calendar because it can't just go on the pile and wait.
No.
I need to make sure that not only have I got the time for the shooting, I have got also the availability to fulfill that deadline.
Yeah, that stuff needs to be pushed forward in the queue, which is then only going to make you more stressed when you come back to the queue, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And like I find myself being like, I'm so glad that corporate project is over because I'm like ready to go back into editing. And yeah, I don't know where to go with this really, but shaving a lot of my corporate work off has made me so much happier. And I don't know, like that might not be the truth for everyone. Like you say, you have clients who are really, really easy to work with.
I have one particular one who's amazing. And I think something that you said, and I think it might have been in the last episode or it might have been a couple of episodes ago, about having an exercise at the start of the year where you sat down and everything that either didn't bring you in the money you needed or sparked joy, you binned off.
Yeah.
I picked up a lot of corporate work during COVID and I've enjoyed it. I don't get me wrong, to have the variation between weddings and other stuff has been great.
Yeah.
But that you get I've had a couple of points this year where I've been very honest to myself and said, I love having this other stream of income, that I'm not solely got all my eggs in the wedding basket.
Yeah,
if you get another COVID come along, but how much anxiety and stress is this client giving me compared to the joy that I get out of doing their job?
Yeah.
And having that balance of, is it worth it? And because of you saying that, that's asked me to probably look at when I come to where I want to manage my calendar next year, maybe how much commercial I take on over the summer is going to be very different to the amount that I take on this year.
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad I could help with that. No, that's been a game changer for me. Is literally writing it all on a bit of paper and being like joy. I literally because my mind works this way. I literally rate it out of 10. It's like joy, excitement, income, and then potential income.
Yeah.
And then I weighed them all up into like an average. And I was like, oh, anything under, or I'll pick the top 3, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Anything else gets shaved off the bottom, basically.
Yeah, we'd be lying if we said that money doesn't make the world go round. We all like to have money to pay for the nice things, or to facilitate that time off, to go on holiday or take a break or buy something shiny and new that you like.
And weddings are good money as well.
They are. Yeah. We can't deny that they're not. But I think at the same time is you need to factor in your health, your well-being, and the level of joy that you get from tasks.
Yeah.
Money should never, if you're in that position that it's able to, shouldn't always trump that. I think that I don't feel when I go to a wedding, I never feel like I've grafted for that money.
Yeah.
Like I never come home. You know, people that hate that, you speak to people in day jobs, like, oh, I've got to go to work on Monday. I'm never, I've got to go to a wedding on Saturday. It's the worst thing in the world. Like I really enjoy my job and I enjoy going to weddings.
Yeah.
I charge what I do because I believe I'm worth it, but I never feel like work's a drag.
No. But that's the thing. You have control over what you do for your job, right? So why would you pick things that aren't going to bring you joy? Like surely the aim is to love your job, right? And I understand like there's always gonna be days you wake up and like I really don't fancy doing this job right
that's
now.
just human nature.
Especially like if you wake up and you've got like a wedding at at a venue which has gone downhill or something, it's chucking it down.
You wake up and it's chucking down. Yeah,
you're like, oh right, okay, I've got to do this sort of thing. It, like you say, it's still enjoyable. You still never feel like you've grafted because you're doing the thing you love. You're filming, you're taking photographs. Like it's still not like you come home and you're like, oh, I hate my job. It's just one of those where you wake up and you're like, okay, this is, I'm going to earn some money out of this. That's what I'm doing. I might not. It might be a bit more of a tough one. Not sure where I was going with that. I'm losing my memory.
But I find again though, it's the people nagging, where are my photos? Where are my photos? Or, oh, we need this. It's that stuff which saps my joy out of stuff much more than doing the job. So I think if you can do a lot more of this preparation stuff to negate that from happening in the first place, that could, it could take a lot of the kind of the things that sap your joy out of them. It could negate a lot of that. You could see it coming and stop it.
Yeah, 100%. I actually do agree with that. That's why things like the tracker and that are good, because you don't get that the chasing and the expectations are set. And then things like our contract as well, which is written really well to a point where like we don't have to deal with the awkward emails where it still unfortunately happens, but the awkward emails where people are like, oh, so when can we send you the music that we want used in the films? And it's like, oh dear. Yeah. But like, it very obviously says that in the contracts, but unfortunately we do still get that.
And I think that's another thing. Stuff's always going to slip through the net. We don't live in a perfect world, and stuff's always going to ebb and flow and change. But for the most part, even if, these things that you put in place, these trackers, your contracts, your scheduling, your diary, if that can even make it half, you get half as many as you did before, and that means that you're 50% happier than you were than when you started. And if you can, and a lot of time it is only a very much of a minority or a very small thing which can really knock your confidence. It's kind of the minority ruins it for the most part. So kind of it's having that clarity in those moments that you're overworked. Just take a step back and go, no, that is just a bump in the road. It's not actually that bad. Yeah. It might seem it at the moment. Yeah. But sometimes you need to take that step back to realise that it's not so bad. And just running around like a headless chicken only makes you more panicked about it, or you make it seem worse in your head than it actually is.
Yeah, because we're so involved in our businesses, obviously everything feels a lot more like if you get a complaint or something, it might feel a lot more personal and like, oh, am I really doing a good enough job and all this lot? But like you say, if you take a step back, we're lucky to be doing what we're doing, essentially. I say lucky, we put in the graft. I don't believe in luck at all. But I think, like,
we found ourselves in a fortunate position that we have that freedom. Yeah, the people in employment don't. They have to. I always say this to a lot of my friends that have 9-to-5s, like to wake up and go, you're going to be productive today between the hours of 9 and 5. And you have to do.
That's nuts, isn't it?
I don't. My brain can't fathom now how you can just turn that productivity switch on and off. Can't. That's why on demand.
Yeah. That's why you get that whole, oh, it's Sunday today. I've got Monday tomorrow. Oh no, it's because they're not feeling it. Like it's not. They've been forced to work these days.
Yeah, I've never consigned to that. Thank God it's Friday, or this is the most Monday ever. Yeah. I don't get that.
I love Mondays because normally I've been away from the office for 2 days, either filming or like doing just stuff on a weekend, like having fun. And Monday is the time I can get back and be like, right, I'm refreshed. I'm time to go. Like Mondays are quite good for me, I think.
And I think it's good that we can get. It's reminding yourselves of that. I think taking those little wins and taking that step back and saying that. And I said this to someone the other day who was saying how busy they were. I was like, But look at yourself. Like 2 years ago, what you've got now is all you ever wanted.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
So whilst you are overworked and you do need a day off and you need the rest of it, but you've built this. Like you've built yourself to a position where you're that in demand for what you create. Let's make it that. And it's almost kind of taking that win.
So now refine it.
People do want me.
Yeah.
Like I'm in demand. I'm in demand. Or what the talents that I have are in demand, which have made me this busy. So in some ways, that's a good. It's a credit. It's a compliment to you and your skills. You know, if you were sat around, you know, staring at your mobile, waiting for an inquiry to pop in because you've got nothing to do,
you feel a lot worse than you do now.
You definitely, for sure.
Yeah, and that's a nice full circle to being busy in the summer is a good thing. Like most of us probably get overwhelmed and burnt out during the summer at some point. You can't. I wouldn't say if you did all these things, you're never going to feel stressed in the summer. We have jobs where we get stressed in the summer. It's just simple as that. But I do think that, like, obviously, once you start to refine your methods and implement certain things, and you can feel happy and stressed at the same time.
I think so. I think the main thing is manage it. Don't let it consume you. But also the biggest one, learn from it.
Yeah.
Look at what you're doing this year, what your pinch points have been, and then sow your seeds in the off season so that you don't find yourself in that vulnerable position next year.
Exactly.
What a good place to be.
That's really good.
I feel better about myself now. I came into this guy, I feel like I was so overworked. And now I'm like, no, I'm living the dream.
Yeah.
Here I am. I've got everything I've wanted. I'm busy. It's summer. It might be raining. I'm going to shoot a wedding tomorrow.
It's a success story.
It is. We're there. Like, I've had full circle with the wedding capture code.
I'm going to go home and do 2 client phone calls tonight. After all this.
Amazing. So hopefully we've helped you out as well. If you could help us out and like, comment, subscribe, share the word on the podcast, all those things that you do to help this thing grow.
Yeah, exactly. We really appreciate all of that. And drop us a message if you've got any ideas as well. I mean, we've got tons of ideas, but we want to hear what you think, what you'd like to hear in the podcast as well, because we're always, trying to help other people out that listen to the podcast and taking on board other things from people.
That's it. We want to give the people what they want, don't we?
Yeah.
So if there's
the men of the people.
So that's it. So if they have subjects that they wish that we would sit and back between the two of us, then give us some recommendations.
I'd love to find out what people really want to see. Yeah.
No topics off limits, within reason. That's it.
Within reason.
We'll leave it there.
All right. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Yeah.